If somebody
What's
were
that?
to ask you, a bar, coffee shop, conference, whatever, who you are, what would you say to them?
I'm first man, I'm a man of faith, a man of God. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a guy trying to do great things for people in the world. I have played in the NFL. I have been American Ninja Warrior. I have done those things, but they aren't who I am.
Hmm,
At the foremost part of me, I'm just a dude trying to enjoy this whole ride of life, and while doing so, help others do the same.
I love it, man. Aren't we all at the end of the day, right? So that's what I'm talking about, dude. So what are you up to these days then? NFL, past. What about present and
Yeah.
future?
Present, man, I have a company called Dark Work. We teach people how to do the work in the dark so they can win in the light. It's about
Oh,
optimizing
I
your
love that.
identity for peak performance. It's really the core of it is trying to get people to fall back in love with the idea of doing the hard, gritty work, but you're
Mm.
doing it for the achievement that we're all seeking. Everybody wants to win. I can't imagine a person that doesn't. Maybe someone wants it more than somebody else, but you don't win because you want to win on the day of the competition or whatever it is. You win because of what you did leading up to it. And not only does it give you a sense of control in those moments, but it gives you a sense of power and peace you can walk around with every single day. So I teach you how to do the dark work so they can win.
I love it, man. Wow, it's powerful, dude. What about the whole concept of doing it for the experience rather than the end goal? What's your perspective on that?
Oh yeah, man. I tell people all the time, you got to fall in love with the day, not just the destination. There's a beauty to, in my opinion, the person who is able to fall in love with the things that everybody else won't fall in love with. They want the
Mm,
same thing,
mm.
but some people, I don't think they say they want it more. I don't know if that's, I think we all want the same, but some people don't have a love with the preparation for it. So what happens is
Wow.
individuals they don't love the day, and then they wake up every day, which is crazy, and they hate the days, hoping that at the destination they'll be happy, but it's not how it works. Like if you fall in love with the daily stuff, if you somehow enjoy the grind of it, the destinations come and they're just a cherry on top of an already amazing Sunday of life.
An amazing Sunday of life. Look at that, eh? That's an interesting way of looking at it, man. I like it, especially from your point of view with your past, everything that you've accomplished in your life. It's interesting to see how you focus on the day and then watch it build into a beautiful mosaic or a Sunday or whatever you want to call it, you know? And so the
Yeah,
accomplishments are the cherry, and you spend most of the time eating the actual Sunday itself. And I
yeah,
think that's an interesting metaphor for it, man. What
good way to
about how
do it.
you? That's what I'm talking about, dude. But how about how you got into what you're up to now? Because I imagine after leaving the NFL, I mean, you're a super successful individual, something that very few individuals have been able to do. And how do you move from that, which is like, holy fuck, I got all these people cheering for me. It's a massive ordeal to the next step. What did that look like for you?
Well, I broke my life at first, man. I think you fall apart. I'm not saying you have to
Yeah,
fall apart,
it was an identity
but
shift, man.
yeah, the majority of people, man, we walk into I think we walk into life and we get good at doing something and we don't comprehend that at some point we won't be able to do the thing we're good at doing.
Mm,
It's weird to
mm,
say, but like you're at some point going to, I don't know, start something new or end something you've been doing. You're going to move at some point, like something's going to change, and you're going to show up one day and not be able to pour into something the way you used to, and you have to step back and question, am I of value anymore now that I can't do that thing? So for me, it
mm.
was football. For some, it's the military. Some, it's when they lose a job, lose money, sell a business, start a new job, get a actual promotion. Like you can't hang with your same people anymore. Maybe it's just there's so many different ways, and then what happens is you lose sight of who you are. And so I did that when I was trying to figure out my life after football, and I didn't have a clear answer of who I was, and I was used to just going to the day and going, I'm the football guy, and then now I go, I'm not the football guy. Who am I? And it took me
Mm,
down a room, which it happens to a lot of folks,
yeah.
and I had to at some point realize that I was never football, but I was a person that created football as a part of my life. And so if I could go back and take care of the guy who created football, he could create something better.
Let's step into that identity for a minute because you're talking about a massive shift going into it because you
Yeah,
identify as, I am an NFL player. So you're identifying with football as
yeah,
opposed to I'm a human who, and I do the same thing. And it causes issues because, for example, I always grew up, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. And
yeah,
then one day you realize, wait a sec, I'm identifying with the money. There's more to me than the millions, right? And so,
yeah.
what about the identity shift from playing college ball to NFL? What was the spike in identity? How did that work? And then we can kind of walk through the shifts that has taken place.
Yeah, to go from like a young age to NFL, you're asking, right? Like, how did I progress up the chains?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at first I wasn't that guy. I think when I was younger, like in high school, I wasn't good at the game. I didn't see myself as a football player at first. I was just a guy trying
Really?
to play the game of football. And I wasn't good. My first couple years of football, I was actually pretty horrible.
Hmm.
And it took me a lot of building of myself, dark work. Same thing that I talk about. It took a lot of that
Hmm.
to do two things. One, to develop the skill set that I needed to be good at the game, like to catch a football, to run around, to make tackles, to read, to move all these different parts of the game. I needed to develop a skill. But the most important part was the sense of self that gave me this internal feeling of I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. It was
Mm,
a
mm,
guttural mentality that came from the work. So I just built, the skill set. I built this brazenness, this drive to deploy that skill set where necessary. And so when I was in a situation, the football's in the air, it's my ball. It is my tackle. It is my
mm,
touchdown because I already did the work. I'd already paid the price for it. And so the shifts took place and the work I did, they showed up on the field. And so I went from, high school not being great to being really good, got a college football scholarship. I did some of the same exact things, just different situations and, different, I guess, stage of life to get from college to the NFL. And it was always the journey of trying to find out how will I do things that I don't currently identify with, but the person who has what I want does.
mm, mm.
It's a big question. And all of us have to answer that one. It's not just a football question. It's how do I identify with the actions that are going to get me what I want, that someone who has what I want already has, but I don't feel like the identity that does that right now. I don't feel like the person that writes that,
Right.
says that, asks that. And so we battle that. We find that I'm fearful of stuff. I don't know if we're always afraid of things not working out. I don't think fear is always just this underrooting driver. It's that you just don't feel comfortable with it because it's not who you are right now. That I think is one of the biggest issues for folks.
How'd you step into that? Because I'm dealing with the same thing. It's imposter syndrome. You're achieving all of this stuff in life. It's different for everybody, and you have a hard time really seeing yourself, knowing everything you've been through, all the dark work that you had to go through to get to the light, to really be
Yeah.
able to flourish when you are in the light. How did you specifically step into that role?
Uh, really, you do it daily, little by little. It's this the way I explain it. It's kind of like you want to have in defining moments when the day shows up that you have to, push or win. You want to have this dog in you, like this fight, this push, and you need it in those moments. And sometimes it's not that you're outwardly going to attack somebody, but it's like, all right, I can handle this meeting. I can make this sale. Like that dog, you need that dog. The problem
Yeah.
is people expect the dog to be alive and kicking, but they haven't fed the dog every day.
Mm, mm,
It's the daily stuff you do that feeds that dog so the dog is ready to take care of business when it shows up. So you ask how I got there. It wasn't because all of a sudden I flipped a switch one day. It's because I went from trying to go big and do that one big huge push to going, I'm going to go really 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 small in a big way. The small thing that compounds over time that allows me to show up at a certain point in the future and go, I got this without
mm,
question, without wavering. I find a lot of folks nowadays, there's this mentality, this talking to of the imposter syndrome. I
mm.
don't know if it's who I am. And I go, yeah, it's not. You should feel that way. They go, what do I do? I go, it's not a death sentence. It just means that right now you don't feel comfortable. Here's the truth. Everybody you know that's successful had that feeling. All they did was just they pushed into a place with action where that got eliminated. Because if you think about some of the best athletes in the world, the most successful, executives or business owners, they have this different swag about them. And it's not anything, that's different or unattainable, but all they did was they did this work that over time built them into feeling this sense of confidence. So while some people have this feeling of, I don't know if I can do it, and I feel like an imposter, their mentality is let me loose. You have no idea what's about to be unleashed on you.
Mm.
It's a whole different like energy that goes forward. People go, how'd they get it? They didn't get it because today they want it. They got it because all the times you didn't see them working,
Yeah.
all the times they know
Yeah.
they got up early, went to bed late, made the phone calls, made the ask, did the workout. So when you see them in those moments, if you look in their eyes, like if you watch some of the best games, when you see guys, girls that are against the ropes in boxing or like they're, it's like the fourth quarter and the clock's ticking you can see them with a sense of calm and like this,
Mm.
like they almost, they, sometimes you watch them, they're like they're on the sideline and they're zoned out in the sideline. You go, what's he doing? He's zoned out on the sideline. He's not zoned out. He's zoned in.
Yeah, he's in a
He's zoned in
trance.
to the last 6 months of the days he got up at 6 in the morning, the
Mm.
times he went to bed. He didn't party, didn't drink. He said no to the booze, no to the food, no to the guys, no to the girls. He knows what he did. And so right now he's telling himself, there ain't no way you're about to lose this. And he
Mm.
taps into a place you can't tap into because you didn't do what he did. And so the imposter syndrome is eliminated by simply working, like taking small actions, not the big mustering one, the one that you got to do every day for 15 minutes. And on day 29, when you don't want to do it, that's a pivotal moment because you can look back and go, okay, I did it for 28 days, 29 is here. If you don't do it, you know, like you know you didn't do it. And so when that thing comes later, a little part of your shield is a chink in it. But when
Mm.
you do, oh man, you feel like you're Super Saiyan, bro. Like you got everything you need locked in and you lean in differently. And it's scary to people. Like there should be a genuine fear in your opposition when they see you, not because you may kill them, but because you're about to kill it.
Mm. But how do you step into that role? Because yeah, you do all the dark work, which is you're tapping into that unconsciously. The boxer in the corner or you on the field,
Yeah.
right? You're tapping
Yeah.
into that unconsciously. It's not something you're consciously thinking about. It's all of the reps you put into it. But then
Yeah.
coming into the light, the first NFL game that you went to, or the first
Yeah.
professional boxing match that somebody has, or whatever. Yes, all of this unconscious buildup has taken place, all the dark work, but there's still
Mhm.
that stepping into the light, which is difficult for a lot of people to
Yeah.
really take that new identity on of, yeah, I worked my ass off and I got here. Now I've got to look at myself as being worthy of getting here. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say?
Oh,
Stepping into
100%.
that role
Yeah.
is
I'm not questioning it. What you have to do is so this is like a process we go through called a dark work experience. And to be quite honest, whenever you've done the work, there's this investment bias. The investment bias is I want a return on my investment. No matter who you are, when you've put something in, you want a return. Now, in the world of money, I give money, I want my money back. In the world of effort and discipline and consistency, the return is I want my result that I am owed.
mm,
And so
that
you
you're
ask how do
owed.
you step into it? There's not this that you won't even have a question of whether you step into it. There's no way I'm not going to. Like this, it won't even cross your mind not to. You may be afraid of what an outcome may be, but the question isn't, am I going to do this? It's, am I going to get the time I want? Am I going to get
Mm,
the amount of money I want? Am I going to get the relationship I want? Am I going to get the client that I want? Not, am I going to do this? It's a different conversation and a different question to ask. But to be honest, the more you lean in, the easier it is. And then you're going to find those moments in the very beginning, usually, that there's going to be this critical precipice moment. You're sitting on the top of this moment of do I sink or swim? And in
mm,
those moments, you have to have something to draw on, which is your darkness. And I say DOYD, draw on your darkness. You need to actually go back to that place and draw from something, pull from something, lean into something. But it's all based on what you deposited. So when I talk to folks, my goal is to say, hey, right now, we're not worried about going big in some massive hurrah. My goal is for you to show up 6 months from now with this internal sense of limitless, ridiculous power,
mm,
the sense that nothing is outside of your realm of capabilities. But we're not going to get that in 6 months unless we do everything we need starting tomorrow. And that thing may be 15 minutes a day. It may be 10 minutes a day. It might mean an hour a week, but there is something. And that something you do needs to be done at your full tilt because 6 months from now, you will know what you've
mm,
done.
mm,
And when you have killed yourself and pushed yourself, you know that. And there's a different edge to you, a different way that you kind of you walk a different gait. You have to do the hardest stuff for the longest because when you show up to that 6 month moment from now, when you have that, literally
mm.
nothing will stop you. It sounds so weird to say it like that, but not that nothing will stop you, but you won't allow something to get in your way. Like there's things that I face daily that I don't allow to have the power to have me stop trying to solve the problem.
Mm.
Like there's so many things I face, and a lot of people go, "Oh, that's what's going on." I go, "No, no, no. Let's solve this problem." Like I have this inherent sense that there's going to be a solution to it. No matter what's going on, I don't accept that there's not a solution. But it's not because I know there is one. It's because in my head I go, I've worked too hard for this not to work out. That's it. I've worked way too hard to have that be for nothing. I'm going to find the solution. And so you lean in different. But all these things are just based on the things I do work wise now. And they need to be in the darkness, man. They need to be behind the scenes. It sounds weird in a world of voyeuristic, watch all the stuff on social media. You need to do some stuff just for you. Like we all need to have moments in time where only I know I did it because it makes you feel like you got a cape on underneath that shirt.
Mm.
Like you take that thing off, you feel like your own little superhero. You're like you genuine like a Superman, but you had to earn that. Like that's not you don't just get born into that. You get built into that. But when you've done it by yourself and you know it's there, you will allow yourself to be in situations to show your work behind the scenes by what you do in front of it. People will
Mm.
see you. And nobody is naive to believe that people are just overnight successes. I think they may assume it's possible. It's not. There's that to be a pure naivete. But the truth is, the things that you see of people who are amazing, it's because of things they were doing when nobody saw.
The pain that they went through. Day 28, like you said, if they miss it, nobody will know. But then it gets a chink in that armor. It's like a little on the cape of Superman, like a little bit of a fray on it, You know that something just one day it changes the way that you look at yourself. Nobody else knows. But when it comes to the light, that one day will be on your mind, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But if you look at yourself like a champion, I did this every single day. I earned this. Nothing will get in
Yeah.
the way of me getting this. That's a totally different mindset, and that's what you're tapping into here. But what about the darkness of the shadow, the Jungian, the darker side of us, right?
Right?
The
Exists.
yeah, right. So that's what I'm talking about. Do you
Yeah,
tap
you
into
need.
that as well as when you
Yeah.
talk about the
Why
dark?
not?
This is it,
Hell
right?
yeah. Well, the thing is that there's shadow work which we know of. Shadow work's finding out what's in your shadows. Dark work is what you do once you know. But you do have to go and tap into that place, and you do got to
Hmm.
exist in that. Like my son plays football right now. He's 14. He doesn't have the same grit that I had, and I understand it. He didn't have the childhood that I had. He wasn't given
Ah,
away as a
interesting.
foster care. He didn't have to survive. He has a
Mm,
dad who's very present and loves him. So it's hard because I have to help him cultivate that grit, and it is not easy to do. But realistically, when he can and does tap into it, he'll be able to dominate folks. The problem is if you don't know how to access that place, you are falling short of a level of execution and performance that that will make you get to the place you want. My son runs hurdles. My other one, he's a hurdler in college. And I just got off the phone with him before I got on this. And he's like, Dad, I know what it is. He's been hitting hurdles lately, kind of messing up. I go, what? He goes, I just need to go crazy. I need to just lean full in and go hard because I've had this lack of confidence in my abilities because I believe I'm still the old guy that I was, but I'm not. And I
mm.
go, son, I've been trying to tell you this. The problem is you keep telling me that it's not football. So him and his mom keep telling me, Dad, it's not football. I go, no, it's not football. But when he doesn't get angry or know how to access his anger properly, he's leaving something on the table. He's leaving a piece of his aggression out there. He doesn't have to actually walk around with it, but he has to know how to access it in competitive moments. And
Mm.
so, same with my youngest son who plays football, he'll go out there and do football. But there's kids that go out there and they're not even as fast, but they are just mean and they're dominant. And I go, you realize that you're bigger and faster and stronger. Yeah, I go, then the only thing separating you is that kid's accessing his aggression and you're not. And we need to have that place to do it because the truth is the energy is just fuel. It doesn't have to come out as aggressive, as negative or mean. It
Yeah.
just has to come out. So it's why you see like tennis players, they're yelling and making noise. That's the aggression, man. It's coming out, but they're not throwing, rocks at people. They're hitting a tennis ball. There are places where the aggression needs to come out. If you're, I don't know, you could be somebody who's running a PTA meeting. You're like, we really got to do this. Like, it can come out in joy. It's weird. Like the aggression can come out in a stance of, I want to see you do the most amazing you can, right? That's still a sense of like I'm inspiring and I'm hoping for you to do well, but I have this drive to want you to get there that doesn't come from a super joyous place,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But if you can have a relationship with that part of you, I think it's a good place. I think the thing that most people don't know is they don't have a relationship. They don't know how to manage that person. It's like the Hulk. They think the Hulk gets out and he's gonna start smashing things. Not the case, man. Like I know how to have that guy come out when he needs to, utilize him and put him away. But I developed a relationship with him. I know
Mm.
how to get to the edge of his control and then reel him back in. But it takes practice. It takes being there often to get a feel for the land and a lay of the land. Most people are deathly afraid. Like my son, the football guy, I don't think he knows what happens beyond 70%. And I think in his head, it's like I go 70% above that, I'm in fist fights. They might hurt me. I go, no, there's kids that go to 99%. And that kid that goes to 99, if you're still playing at 70, he wins.
Hmm.
So it's getting into tap into that place you need to tap into, but not going overboard.
Do you think you can tap into that without a sufficient amount of pain? You had a hard, I mean, by
Yeah,
all accounts, a hard fucking childhood,
you
and
can.
so do you think you can tap into how? Because, somebody who is raised with, loving parents and good childhood, quote unquote, less pain, less trauma, they
Yeah.
don't, I mean, I would like to hear your perspective on this. How do you cultivate that for somebody who was lucky enough to have a trauma less or less trauma than others kind of childhood?
Yeah. Well, the military's been doing it for years. I mean, the hundreds of years the military's done it. It takes people, back in the day, you
Hmm.
used to have the Spartans that put the kids at 14 to the agoge. There's always these situational moments you can raise the temperature of somebody's life by forcing them into things. And to be honest, when we're older and we're grown, it's a little bit harder. But I'll tell you this, man, the best thing you can do is subject yourself intentionally to a difficult container window of time, right? It's like
Hmm.
my son, my daughter, they have different lives. Like from what I had, they're much easier. We'll call it not even, they're much safer. They are much easier also, but they're much safer. But I curate difficulty. My son, he
Interesting.
at one point
Hmm.
lacked the ability to give his all on the football field. I don't know if it was fear. I don't know what drove him, what his issue was. But for some reason, I couldn't get him to go to a level. And I go, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you this. I'm tired of watching you stand around plays, get your butt kicked, and then not fight back. I need you to fight back. I don't care what it looks like, but I need you to try. Like you're not trying, and I can see that. I don't know what to do. Just timid and shy. I go, well, here's what's going to happen. You have one more game. If this energy doesn't come out in this next game coming up, you're going to sleep on the floor for a week, or sorry, a month.
Interesting. Mm.
And my wife was like, no, you're not. I go, no, yeah, I am. She goes, why would you do that? I go, because the thing is when people have a lot and they have this sense of entitlement and safety, the biggest thing, in my opinion, you can do, I don't have data behind this, but I think the biggest pain they'll feel is the removal. Like when you have a amazing relationship and you don't appreciate it, they say you don't know what you lost till it's gone. Don't know what you lost till it's gone, right? It's this whole like, it's this feeling of like, oh, I didn't know what I had until it was gone. And so I go, okay, that logic could ring true for the kids that have all this stuff. But if I take things away, like his bed, like his phone, we say phone, we think it's just the baseline. Take away the option to choose at restaurants when you go out to eat as a family. Take away the option to go to a restaurant. Take away the option to go to in the pantry and get food whenever you want to. Take away the option to go hang out with your friends. Take away the option of your bed, right? That just you take these things away. I've taken away his backpack, his shoes, his clothes. Like you take things away. And the reality is they start going, oh wow, I do appreciate this thing that I don't have. And in order to get it back, I subject them to things work wise to make
Mm.
them have to understand what it cost. So we pay the kids minimum wage to do hourly tasks. So they understand the value of a dollar. So if they lost something or didn't care about fixing something or something got broke, I go, cool. You're not going to work off the value of what that was. How much was it? 150 bucks. Cool. We're going to have you do minimum wage work so you get 150 bucks. And then they hate it because it's a lot of work. They realized what's going on. And so I create and cultivate for them environments that force them to have to emotionally connect to the difficulty of things.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I want to let you know that I've got a free book that you can get if you want to tap into more of these resources. And you can get that for free at kylesbook.com. Back to the podcast.
So again, they don't have to go through what I went through to experience that and build the muscle, but I have to intentionally, as a parent, be okay with them experiencing pain to make them better.
It's interesting, man. You're finding that balance between exposing them to some of what you had to go through to guilt to build that confidence or to tap into that darkness, right? Because I think
Yeah,
that does come with a certain level of pain to be able to understand the other side, to appreciate the light in this, to use the
yeah,
dark and light example. You're
yeah.
you're you're being a responsible parent by doing that. Whereas a lot of people, they would give their kids everything they wanted because they don't want them to have to go through what they went through. But in actuality, you're handicapping the kid, man.
Yeah.
You're setting him up to not be able to appreciate the light because he never went into the depths of the darkness.
Never
It's funny,
experienced.
man. It's it's funny the things that seem so terrible at the time when they happen, you look back and you're like, man, I wouldn't be the person that I am right now if that didn't happen. And
Yeah,
so
I don't have to like.
like there's that's the light to the dark, man. You can't have one without
Yeah,
the other.
can't. I mean, you don't have to like it, but you can't appreciate it. And he did sleep on the floor for a month. My wife hated it. My wife's the nurturing one. And I mean, he had like a little, little like foam pad to sleep on. But there was this, sense of like and then he worked back and he figured it out. And it wasn't, and when he did, I celebrated it, right? It wasn't like, see you go finally. And it wasn't about him. Keep in mind, I don't care my kids' achievements and accolades. I don't care if they take first place in their races. I honestly don't care if they win the games they play. I care purely on the effort that they give, that I can see. Now, I believe if they give the effort, the outcome can likely be a win, but it's not always going to be that. I played sports, I get it, but I just want the effort. And once they give the effort and realize that the outcomes are kind of cool, they go, "Oh, this is why
Mm.
I did." So they realize why I pushed them into it. Every time, no, but they're getting to the ages now at almost 15 or almost 20. The twins are 15. Like they're getting to the ages now where they kind of get it. They're like, "I understand." They still don't like it, but they understand what's going on from a logical standpoint.
Mm. It's important, man. It's interesting. So back to the topic of identity. How do you think that that tailors in with developing an identity of being able to step into the light, being able to, and do you do this for yourself still? Do you orchestrate pain
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where you're, I don't know, not appreciating or not being able to step into that role? For me,
Yeah.
I do it, man. It's like I crave it. It's like chaos, it's because it's familiar to me. And so I find myself wanting to put myself into painful situations, which
Yeah.
other people would find bizarre. But for me, it's I don't know, it feels strange without enough chaos sometimes. What do you do
Yeah.
to kind of cultivate that chaos these days?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it chaos for me. I can see that like a chaotic window of time. Like I'll still do flag football and go do masters track and run with my wife. So I guess there's something in that. But I do create like next month, a buddy of mine, Byron and I are going to do no carbs for the entire month, which,
Damn.
it's not the end of the world, but it's just, it's one of those things. But this was just a discussion earlier this afternoon about it because you do need to give yourself these things, not just for a health kick, but also to test your metal to make sure you still
Yeah.
got it, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And then in doing so, you put yourself back in that seat of power, that seat of feeling
Yeah.
like you're a powerful human. And it doesn't mean your power is, bleeding out to where it's, power over others. I'm not saying that, but I like to be around powerful people, someone who can powerfully speak their mind and communicate and share and show up as their best absolute version of them and how they communicate, how they talk, how they succeed if they need to succeed, how they apologize, they have empathy, how they forgive. Like I need people that are powerful in their abilities to do that because those make the best teammates, they make the best friends, they make the best colleagues. It doesn't mean that their power is something that overreaches to where I feel like I'm under their thumb by any means, but I feel like I'm in, the Justice League or the Avengers, right? I want to be around other powerful humans because that's how you change the world.
Mm. What are some commonalities you've noticed with powerful people that you hang out with? Rather, whether it's the people that
Yeah.
are on the field with you, the friends that you have and cultivate these
Yeah.
days. What are some
Their
commonalities in terms
ability.
of personality?
Yeah. Some of them is it's heavily their ability to communicate their discourse with somebody in a way that is respectful without being disrespectful, right? To be able to share is what I need or what I see. There's
Mm.
also the ability to receive that. That's one of the biggest ones. Can you receive feedback that is not about how amazing you are,
And
but in a
appreciate it.
way that, yeah, right? And then go, thank you for that. Like, thank you for telling me I suck as a dad. Like, sounds odd, but like some people are like, they want to fight that. But the reality is, there's like Gay Hendricks, I think he says, if you fight for a limitation, you get to keep it. So when you fight for this thing to protect whatever, you get to keep it because you're fighting to stay in that position. So you're essentially pushing away the ability to give yourself permission to improve in that thing. So you don't improve in that thing. And so the people I'm around, they're able to express their minds very clean and clear in ways that make sense. They're able to receive it as well, but they're also able to work without needing somebody to babysit them. Like they can work on something knowing it's just for them and that they are the ones that are driving it. It's gonna sound really weird, but like I don't not cheat on my wife because I love her. Bear with me here. I promise it'll get somewhere. One of the reasons that are heavily why I don't cheat on my wife is because I love me. I
Mm.
love the sense that I have a pure integrity of my heart, that I'm a good man, that I'm a good father, that I'm upright and forestanding, that no one can walk into a room and go, I know what you did when no one was watching. That can't happen for me. And so part of that means I have a heavy integrity with me as a great husband. So because I want to be seen to myself as a great husband, the biggest thing is you don't cheat on your wife, right? Now, that obviously is a very close second of I love my wife, right? So I'm not saying it doesn't have any part in it, but there's a big piece of it that my desire to love me and how I show up for her as a husband, show up for my kids as a father, show up as a leader of my household, show up for the community at large. Those are the driving forces. And I find those that are in great places in life and doing phenomenal things, they have that same tick. They do things because they know they will or will, they'll know they did or didn't do it. And that to look at themselves in a mirror and not like themselves is one of the biggest fears they have.
Yeah, it's that chink in the armor that we're talking about. Day 28, you didn't do it. Only you know that you didn't do it. But when it comes to game time, there's something there that tells you that, you could have done more, which is
Yeah.
powerful when you can say that, no, I did everything I fucking could and I was able to achieve this because of it. And it's a
Yeah.
totally different thing. Now let's get into the other side of it because you said that when you got out of the NFL, when you had to go through this identity shift of from this to not having the cheering fans and I mean, I can't fathom the average person can't imagine the kind of feelings, the endorphins, the adrenaline, the dopamine that's kicking in when you're in
Yeah.
that sort of a position to then go to not having it anymore. Walk me through a little bit what that was like for you.
I mean, just you fall off a ladder, man. You got to figure
Yeah.
out to not hit every rung on the way down. It sucks. Yeah, what are you gonna do? I mean, I guess for me, when I look at that part of the world, I think we all need to have those moments to center back because you can get lost in how great you are if you're doing great things and never have anything to battle for. It gives you a great depth of gratitude for what you do have, but I think it also gives you an opportunity to reapply your intangibles somewhere else. I didn't see it at first. It took me like 3 years to really figure out and blow my life up, like really what I was supposed to be doing. Even more than 3 years, man. It took me probably like 6 or 7 to like really figure out that I am not football. I'm Anthony, and Anthony played football. Let me go make Anthony great so football becomes less of an issue. At this point in my life, I make more money. I have more free time. I'm a better man. I love my life. I wouldn't trade it for the NFL for anything.
Wow.
Did I always know it was coming? No. I had to build this though. And
Hmm.
so the way it built was like I went down at the valley, man. I definitely had a rock bottom. Like suicidal. I hated this world. I didn't know how to be able to climb out and do anything. I didn't know anything. And I went back to doing what I've been talking about. I started doing dark work. I started looking at myself and go, what is wrong with me? Because for a lot of us, we're stuck in the middle of a tornado of life. We don't want to have this one acceptance, which is you are the common denominator in all of your problems, period. There's no end stop, right? Either you have created the problem or you are allowing it to persist in your life. But
Hmm.
you're the common denominator. You're present in it. And until you can step back and figure that piece out, you're going to create your own private hell. And people are going to have to watch you live in it. And then you may drag some into it with you. But for me, when I was able to step out and go, damn, I'm a problem. Like I got to figure me out. When I finally did and did that work to redevelop a different identity, I needed to get back to that sense of a guy who had power. And I realized this: I didn't play football and couldn't play anymore, but football gave me a ton of intangibles, skill sets, tools that I had a bag full of them I wasn't using anymore. I go, what if I try to use these tools in a different way? Like, what if I try to use them in business or in a career or to fix myself? What if I try to use this determination, this discipline, this structure, this mind I have, this way that I can read people? What if I figure out how to utilize that in a different manner? And
Hmm.
so I did try to find a way to apply the tools. And sure enough, I was able to reapply the tools and create something better because I wasn't in this confine of one specific lane with it. I could take it anywhere I wanted. It was like having an infinity gauntlet from the Avengers, whatever it was, right? Like Thanos, man. And now I go, I want to build a great business. I want to speak for a living. I want to be able to have time with my kids. I want to serve people. I want to give money back. Like I just want to do these things. And I go, okay, now that I want to do it, what tools in my toolbox do I need to just to figure out how to use or to wield in some way to get the result I want? And I started doing it. And every goal that I've set for myself, I've always been able to accomplish. Not immediately. Some have taken years, but I just stay the course. I do that work in the dark. I don't boast about what I want all the time. I'm not making statements about how I'm going to have it in this time frame. I'm just working towards it. And you don't even know I'm working towards it, but I am. And then all of a sudden, my name pops up somewhere. It's like, what did this guy, what's going on here? And it's like, no, he's been working. There's no way he got that without working. But I didn't do it for them. I
Mm.
didn't do it for my name to pop up. I did it for me. I did the work because I want to be better. So back in those days, that's where I kind of first did it. Now I just continue doing it.
You say that you didn't do the work for you cut out a little bit for your pop.
Hmm?
You said I didn't do the work for them. It wasn't I think you named a specific individual. And you said I did it for me. Who was the
It was,
individual?
no, me. It was just I did it. I did it for me. I didn't do it for them. I did it for Anthony because
Okay,
I knew
okay.
Anthony. I need to love this guy. I need to love him the way I used to love. I need to have that sense of I'm dope. I needed that
Mm,
sense of time, and
right.
I had that from the work I did. So I went back to doing things, and some things I did just because they were hard. You don't do Spartan races because they're super fun. They're fun because they're hard. A lot of the things we do that are the most fun, in hindsight, they were fun because of how hard they were or scary
Mm,
they were. So we like roller coasters. There's nothing logical about having fun, throwing your body around through space in ways that could kill you. That's not logically, it's not fun, but emotionally, it's inexplicably fun. There's no fun in doing like a crazy hard, 13-mile Spartan race. Your body hurts, your lungs are blowing up, your muscles are cramping all the time. It just hurts, right? But the reality is you when you're done with it, you go, I did this thing, and you're so proud of it. Why?
mm,
We're proud because of how hard it was. It's why CrossFit and childbirth, people always talk about these things. Why do they talk about CrossFit and childbirth all the time? Because of how hard they are. And so for me, I just started going, I'm gonna choose hard things to do and see what happens. Because when I do hard things, I feel good about myself. And I did. I started doing
mm.
hard things. I borrowed not just the skill sets, but now this sense of confidence that I could reapply somewhere else in my life.
Yeah, man, it's powerful as all hell. I just interviewed Joe DeSena, the founder of Spartan Race,
Awesome.
and
Yeah,
some
yeah,
interesting parallels between what the two of you are saying. What it comes down
yeah,
to is looking at yourself as a champion. There's nothing that's going to stop you from doing what you've done because of the work the effort that you put into it to get you to where you are now. And you
yeah.
do that by setting a goal in a Spartan race, for example, it's a date on the calendar, and you give yourself
Mhm.
no option but to do whatever it takes to be able to do it when that date
Yeah.
comes. And the same can be
Hmm.
with any business activity, man. What have some parallels been in terms of what you've learned throughout your life that have been, like you said, the tools, right? One of them you said was reading people, which I found interesting. How does that parallel with, let's say football and business? What's the correlation with reading people?
Yeah. Well, it's actually so growing up, I had this situation where I was put into foster care. I had to determine whether or not I was safe in the environment.
Yeah.
And you learn that by watching and reading people. And to be honest, I've never used it for anything bad, but like I learned how to develop this skill set out of sheer survival. And so as I got older, I could learn, and I can to this day still gauge and understand like facial expressions and people who I can tell they're a little bit off. There are times that I'll meet people and I'll turn to my wife and I go, something off about them. I don't know what it is. She goes, what do you mean? I go, you didn't notice it? She goes, I noticed nothing. They just said hi. And I go, there's something more to it. And sure enough, you find out within an hour later on, like there's something going on. And it happens to me frequently. And it's kind of this thing where it's not like I read their aura. I'm not stupid. I'm not saying like I'm reading people's aura. You could do that, I'm sure, but I'm not doing that. The thing for me is I'm reading their body language, their tonality. There's a vibration, their tone. I'm watching their eyes, and it's not this thing where I studied a book and figured it out. It just was a survival thing that over the years it went from me like in survival of just life to like I needed to read this guy in football. What direction is he going to run? What plays he about to do? Right. Then from there, I started like going into business and learning like how I could look employees I may hire, team I might have, this person I'm talking to about this situation, how to be able to make sales. Like I can watch on Zoom nowadays, and I can see when someone isn't getting what it is I'm saying, and I can I can read all this stuff, and I can make pivots and adjustments, and be able to get things figured out. And sure enough, we got a new client. And it's not this like thing where I'm analyzing and I'm not doing NLP. Like I'm not doing anything. It's just paying attention and paying attention with the intention of using it to be able to move the conversation or move something along business wise or personally. But I don't know. I've also had to learn as well because it's not like the people I interact with when I was a kid are the same people I interact with now. So I've actually had my mistakes, but they always they go back to helping bolster the filter. So when I have situations and I get burned or something goes wrong, every time I take a little, like a lot of the details and I stick them into my new database, my filter, and I use them going forwards. So I just get better and better and refine my skill sets over time because of that. The way that this even became an idea was I went and did this brain scan by a guy named Dr. Daniel Amen.
Oh yeah.
And
Number
he
one
has
brain
this
scan nobody's done more brain scans than Dr. Amen, that's for sure.
dude's on it. And we did this study, like NFL, post concussion study.
Yeah.
And there's this part of the test that ends up doing, I think you're supposed to like you're reading faces to determine the expression. And there's a bunch of different ethnicities and men and women. And so there's no, broad stroke of, but you have to figure out what emotion they're displaying. And so I went through it and he goes, there's a spot here of your like reading is like that I don't normally see. I go, what do you mean? He goes, most people, they get like twos or threes here. He says, the highest you've ever seen is a six. He goes, you got a nine
Hmm.
out of 10. He's like, there's something going on. And so I talked to him and goes, and he also could see in my brain, and before I even said anything, he goes, did you have a lot of trauma as a kid? I go, yeah, I did have a lot of trauma. He goes, I could see it right here in your brain. Like, that's creepy. But at the end of the day, like he's able to see like where I had like a routing of like, trauma as a kid and this stuff that kind of wired the brain differently. But then also at the same time, like there's a part of me that is able to read facial and expressions in ways that most people just don't, purely off of my opinion is just experience of it and being aware of it much younger than most.
Yeah, well, you had to, right? And you had to survive. There was no other option. When it came to the brain scan, speaking about identity shifts, did you have, because he probably told you your brain was shit after that. Oh, am I wrong?
Yeah.
What did he say about your
Well,
brain after?
not that it was crap, but there's definitely some areas of like because football physically
Right.
my brain.
Yeah.
He said cognitively I'm good though. He's like cognitively you're good. My right and left brain weren't communicating as well as they needed to. But we
Hmm.
did this stuff. I took his supplements and then did some actual stuff over time and came back 3 months later and it was way better. So that was years ago though now. So I have no idea where I stand at this actual moment. But he's like, yeah, you're good. And actually, I did do a recent scan of my brain and we did a whole testing thing. NFL does this brain and body work every 5 years. You can go do it. I've done two of them now. But I believe it's my thalamus. Where's the like long? It's either hippocampus or thalamus. Maybe the hippocampus. I think it is because it's based on memory. But the hippocampus I have, he says I'm in the 97th percentile for my age, which you wouldn't typically
Hmm.
get unless you're doing something. But they're like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. So I'm actively thinking, remembering, and paying attention to keep my brain strong. But because usually you have ideas and you're processing the prefrontal cortex, you're learning how to ride a bike and chew bubble gum at the same time, right? After a while, it becomes just, I don't know, habitual. It's almost like a natural flow. You could do it mindlessly. It's because the brain went from being that kind of heavy processing in the prefrontal cortex and it kicked it back to the hippocampus, and the hippocampus rolls and gets things done. Mine is abnormally, I guess not abnormally, but it's in a good percentile compared to most people. And that's just from using my brain.
Hmm. I wonder if how that tailored into you being able to perform on the field because you didn't do it consciously, whereas other people might have had to take more conscious effort, but you were doing it with the hippocampus in this case, as you said. So it's an unconscious competence that you were able to develop over time. Do you
Yeah.
read a lot? I mean, I see you got a library behind you. What about
Yeah.
fiction
I
books as
read.
opposed to I see the 10x rule, I see some business books back there. What about
Yeah.
fiction? They say fiction is good for
Not too
memory.
many. They
No?
do. I'm
Hmm.
not a big fan. I'll watch movies and TV shows.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm a
veg
big
out on
movie guy.
yeah, I'm probably like massively like movie TV show stuff. Yeah, but I love the idea of it taking me somewhere else. I want to be in a new plane
Hmm.
of thought or existence. So that's kind of why I dig into a lot of those shows. But I don't read I don't read fiction. I'm not
Uh,
against it. I don't personally find myself reading it.
I asked just because they said it's good for memory. They said it's good for exactly that part of the
Worry
brain
about it.
that's responsible for that. Yeah, kind of like
I don't doubt.
if you watch a movie for 20 minutes, you take a break, go back a week later, you remember what happened up to the point where you paused at. There is the same thing, the same concept of reading a book, a
Yeah,
fiction book, because you have to put the book down, pick it up, remember everything that's happened to the characters moving forward, and that
yeah,
habitual having to remember is supposedly good for it.
that
What's your
makes
favorite?
sense.
What's your favorite football movie, man? This is an interesting question for you. If you're a big
Fa-
movie guy, how accurate are they and what's your favorite?
Well, I mean, they're all accurate to an extent, but none of them are truly real. That's a great question. What's my favorite football movie? I don't know. There's a lot because you have, okay, let's list a couple off. You have like The Longest Yard, you have Any Given Sunday. You got, Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of movies that are football based movies. The Replacements, I want to say it's called too. Uh, you got the one with Mark Wahlberg. I don't know what that movie was called. I probably still remember the Titans if I had to choose one. It's just cool and it's motivation. You got Denzel and
Yeah.
there's a pretty good. Yeah, but I mean, Friday Night Lights. These movies are all like segments of embellishing what really takes place. The program might have been one that was the throwback, like most in line with like crazy days of college football. Probably where they're like taking roids and spin each other's faces. It's crazy, man. But
So
but
what
no,
you're saying is, oh, go ahead, man.
no, I did no. I'm just I'm good. Go on your tangent. My tangent was stupid.
I like it, man. No, it's cool to hear your perspective on it because it sounds like they only show what happens in the light, but they often miss. Like you show the hero's journey where they go through some pain, something happens that is a turning point for them, but they really miss everything that goes into the dark that is able to produce what happens when you're on the field, right? Um,
Yeah, not
what about,
everything. It's not as sexy as all the movies make it.
yeah,
It's kind of
true. Yeah.
football. They make the movies these because every movie has to be entertaining, which I get. The life of football player, it's not always that entertaining, man. Like it ain't like we're always wandering around with like, music playing in the background and there's guys and there's girls hanging out and
Yeah,
a
10
party and
blondes
pop.
on either side. Yeah, come on.
And a lot
I
of the time
like
it's just,
that, eh?
yeah, it's like quiet hours in the treatment center with you on your back and massage, like because your ankle hurts. It's not a fun massage or taped or sit in the cold plunge in the weight room, or making food, eating food, watching film. Like it is very unsensational. But then you see the stuff that's sensationalized of like the,
Mm,
press conferences. And you get to see them rocking jerseys, and then there's game day, which it's beautiful. Those moments are amazing. You have to prepare in the dark for that. But there's no one would want to watch the TV show that would show you definitively what takes place behind the scenes in the time in which it does. Now they did have a show, Hard Knocks, that gives you a little bit more behind the scenes, but even that's got to be sensationalized for you to watch it. But the average existence of a football player, it's fairly boring except for competition.
mm. Yeah, it's the reality of it. And the movie wouldn't be as sexy, like you said. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting, man. Let's get to the business of it because I'm curious about this.
Yeah.
And we can end on this note because I'm fascinated by what you do in terms of helping clients. Let's say I hired you, where if
Yeah.
for business growth or personal growth, where would we start? What are the first
Yeah.
couple of steps that we would take?
Yeah, well, first thing we do is we go through a process called respecting the light. So we have to take a look and say, what light do you want to shine brightest in? Like what's your future? Literally, we do like a vivid vision. We clarify, and this is not abnormal. People do this all the
Yeah.
time. What's your vision, right? But we have to know what that is. But we do it at a deeper level to where we know what it is, what it looks like, what it feels like. I need to get you to an emotional
Mm,
place with it, but I
mm,
also need to be able to have clarity so we know when you've crossed that finish line. You can't just say, I want to be happy. I want to be joyous. That doesn't help me at all. It doesn't help you either. So you figure out what it means to respect the light. So what you're going to step into, but it also means getting some weight and some gravity to what you're about to step into. I need you to think about in
mm,
advance the emotional pull you're about to have to accomplish it. Because if not, the moment that you face the first real test, you're going to back down and you'll walk away. You weren't prepared for what it's about to be. So getting the weight
mm,
of what it is, because you see what it is big. So I go, okay, I want to be the best of my team next year. Okay, it's not just a word. What does that mean? I got to run faster. I got to lift more. Okay. Like you're starting to absorb what it really means to do that. Now I get what it is. I have respect for it, which means to have admiration for. You then have to respect the person who's in the light already with that. Who's the person that has this thing that you may not like, but you need to understand and respect? Because some people we look at who are doing great things and we don't like them for out of envy purposes or because I don't like the way they do something, and I start to diminish and downplay what they're doing. But in doing that, I'm robbing myself of the ability to find out what they did that I can do.
mm,
So look at someone you don't like, figure out what it is that they do, and go, maybe I got to do that. The last thing is respect what you got to do to step into the light. Like you really got to figure out your gaping holes in the bucket that got to be plugged. I can't look at somebody else and borrow their habits and their things they got to do because they have a different personality, different life, different everything. If I just do what they do, I could find myself tired with no progress. Find out your stuff. That's respect the light. And we also unpack your life in 10 different areas to figure out in each of these 10 areas what it looks like. So that's how we start out because I need to get clear on what people have going on. And then we can go into the second phase, which is all about doing the dark work. We design the dark. We actually design what your dark work experience looks like. I
Mm.
need you to be able to show up and be disciplined to a plan, not the emotion of it. A lot of folks, they lean on the emotion. I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna go after it, and it's great. But you can't stay disciplined to emotion because when the emotion leaves, there's nothing to be disciplined to. So you wander and you drift and you float. Whereas for me, I go, I'm gonna have a plan. Based on what I just uncovered, I'm gonna find out what small things I have to do over time that turn to the big thing I want later on and the person I'll become while doing it. And then if I got that in place, I put it into a calendar, I infuse it in, and then I get going. It may mean 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, a whole week off. It's different for everybody, but you got to be able to lock in for the long haul. And then you go to work. And then we track people for 90 days. And we have tools, we have sheets. I'm looking at one right here that we use that allows me and you to see your progress. And it's not about looking at the progress going, I'm this many steps away. It's just saying, did you do that thing today? Whatever those things are, did you do them? Because if you did them, we've already figured out it'll get us where you want to go. But the question is not, are you where you want to go? It's, did you do those things? And if you did the things, inevitably you'll get where you want to go. But many people just don't do the things. So they do them for a little bit and they fall off and they go back again. And they're like, I can't make it. No, you can't stay consistent. You can make it. You just can't stay consistent. And that's a lot of the work we do.
Yeah, see, what causes the inconsistency a lot of the time is an incongruent belief system that doesn't match the identity of who they want to become. So,
So
there's these voices that pop up, oh, you can't do it, or you're too tired right now. Have a break, or relax for a day, that kind of a thing. And then,
it's the old
what?
it's the old identity. It's the old identity is
Right.
fight for its life. I mean, anything that's dying fights. Even if
Mm,
it any so it's like the idea is that voice in your head that is telling you to play small and can keep you in comfort. It is your current identity that you want to make your old identity. It's fighting to stay in the position it is. So when you hear that and the voice softens and it makes you feel like I should do it, that's a big red flag for the future identity you want to have, which is no, we do this. It's what we do. We don't question it. It's who we are. And that one takes time to build. So yes, they don't step forward because they don't see themselves there yet. And I get that. But I'm not saying to identify with the outcome. I'm not saying
mm,
tell yourself I'm the best boxer in the world. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying what does the best boxer in the world do? Identify with doing those things. You're not going to feel good at first, but you can go to sleep going, you know what? I ran 3 miles. You know what? I took 100, punches to the bag. You know what? I got that lift in. Then if you keep doing that eventually and you up the intensity of it, eventually you could possibly be the best boxer in the world. But if you identify with the best boxer, that cognitive dissonance in your brain that
yes.
goes, you're lying to yourself,
Mm,
it kicks in and goes, stop this, right? But if you go, no, I got the workout, that's undeniable. I did the workout. Beautiful. Did I do it with the
mm.
intensity? Let me see, what's their heart rate? How are they sweating? I can't push that way, but if I stay in this pocket and keep pushing, I'll get to that level. But your brain doesn't have a separation. It goes, yeah, you did do the workout. Good job. And
Mm.
you build, and you build.
So you're not basing your identity off of where it can be. You're also balancing that, which is the goal, which you need because you got to know where you're going. But you're also balancing that with the progress that you're making day by day. And at the end of the day, you're looking for the wins that you've had that have contributed and have worked
Yeah.
congruent with that future that you've painted for yourself. And you do that enough. And it's also the dark work that we're talking about. When the light comes, you're ready to step into it. And
Yeah.
you do that every day. Don't miss a fucking day. Otherwise, there's a chink in your cape, baby. There's a little snag on that thing. Only you know
And you
about
know
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
That's how it works.
crucial, man. It's interesting to paint light on that, so to speak, to paint light on that aspect of the chink in the chain. So, brother,
Yeah.
dude, fascinating conversation. Anything else you got to add before we kick this off?
Nah, man, that's it. I got to jump here in a second, but that's all I got, man. I appreciate the time spent.
I appreciate you, man. Seriously. Thank you for telling the story. I know you've told them fucking stories 100 times, 1,000 times.
It's
We
all
went
good,
into the
bro.
football a little bit, and I
It's
appreciate
all
you
good.
entertaining me, man. So it was fascinating to meet you. Seriously, man. And we'll
Nah,
keep.
man, it's always a pleasure. Years ago, I was told by a mentor that while it's your story, sorry, he says, not your story, it's your experience. Your experience is the gift of a story to somebody else. And for the people
Mm,
you'll oftentimes, it may be the first and only time they hear it. So don't get tired of telling a story that doesn't belong to you.
hmm. A story that doesn't belong to you. What did you mean by that?
The life that I've lived, it's not my story. In my opinion, it's my experience of life. I give it to you in story format, but it's not for me. I don't tell myself my
Hmm.
story.
Hmm.
I'm telling the world my story. And so it's the gift I get to give. It doesn't belong to me in a sense. My experience belongs to me. It all does. But the
Interesting.
story of that experience is yours. And so I'm not going to rob
Hmm.
somebody the gift of its impact because I've told it before. It's
Yeah,
like
it's like,
saying, got this gift and I've given the gift a bunch of times. You know what? I don't feel like giving this gift the same way. I'm not going to wrap it the same. No, I'm excited at what this gift can do for you. I'm going to make sure every
hmm,
time I wrap this gift, I do it with the utmost attention to detail because this gift is the only one you'll get from me. So if that gift comes from me and I have integrity in me giving you something great, I'm going to give you that gift great because it may be the only interaction you have with my humanity in your lifetime.
damn, man. And that integrity rubs off in everything else you do by living to that standard. So, man,
Yeah.
fascinating, deep, deep shit, dude. Deep, deep stuff. I appreciate you sharing it, man. And we'll keep
Welcome,
in
man.
touch, brother. Thank you.
Very welcome. Take care, man. I enjoy our time together. Till next time, I guess, right?
Till next time, man. For real. All right, dude. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Ciao.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. And if you want to get a free copy of my book, go to kylesbook.com and you can get a copy there. I'll talk with you soon.